today for a special Fruition Partners and ServiceNow webinar entitled Become ServiceAware with ServiceWatch. While you were waiting for the webinar to begin, you probably noticed the slide currently up on the screen. There's a lot of talk surrounding ServiceWatch these days, so to give you every opportunity to learn about its purpose and benefits, we've paired up with ServiceNow to host a special ServiceWatch live demo in London on Thursday, October 23rd, and we're inviting everyone on this call to join us there. The event is free and will dive much deeper into the functionality and business relevance there. So think of today's webinar as just a small sample of what we'll be demoing on October 23rd. So to keep things moving, I encourage you to visit the URL up on the screen to learn more about the event, and you can register there as well. Today's webinar is only 30 minutes, so we'll keep the intro light, and I'll jump right into the content you're here for. I do want to point out that the webinar is being recorded. So you will have, if you have to jump off early for any reason, you'll be able to watch a recording of the webinar on the Fruition Partners website sometime early next week, and you'll be notified via email when it's available. Again, we're very excited to be doing this joint webinar with ServiceNow today. We have two amazing presenters lined up, Alan Johnson from Fruition Partners and James Neal from ServiceNow. Both have an abundance of experience when it comes to the ServiceNow platform, and furthermore, a great deal of hands-on experience with ServiceWatch, so you're in for a real treat. Alan, if I could just get you to say hello real quick so the folks can hear your voice.
Hi, everyone. Great to speak to you today.
Great. And then James, if you could do the same.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar.
Great. Thanks. Again, this webinar is only 30 minutes, and we have a lot to cover, so we won't have time for a dedicated Q&A at the end like we normally do. However, we still encourage you to ask questions as they come to mind, whether via the GoToMeeting panel or you can reach us on Twitter, and we'll be sure to follow up with you personally after the webinar. So without further delay, I'm going to hand off things to Alan and James. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Hi everyone, it's Alan Johnson here. I'm a Service Delivery Manager at Fruition Partners. So very briefly, it's a very short session, so not going to spend too long on the agenda, but we're going to give you our view of why Service View, how it works, why we think it's different and why it's exciting, a brief overview of the architecture, and then James from ServiceNow is going to take us through a step-by-step view of all the features. I have a couple of poll questions on the way through because we're interested in your experiences in business service mapping in particular and discovery. And a closed wrap-up session. As Christina said, we're looking to get you along to the London event where there'll be an opportunity to see the products live and ask some more in-depth questions. So moving on, those that aren't ServiceNow customers at the moment, the platform itself is a service automation platform. What that means is really the first puzzle that was solved with ServiceNow is the ITSM arena. For those that are users of the product, they know that it's you probably know that it's a workflow engine. The piece we're talking about today, so ServiceWatch is an exciting acquisition for ServiceNow. We're down in the operations management segment of the operating model. So we're talking about service mapping, real-time discovery, and event correlation and root cause analysis. So moving on. I guess we come across this in a lot of organisations where there's a big gap between the IT infrastructure, so the things that host the key services and applications, and really what the business needs. Having a view of lines of business in real time, looking at the status of those lines of business is really key. If a line of business is performing badly, that could have a serious effects on an organisation, whether it's financial or organisational. If something happens, we need to know very quickly where the root causes are and where the problems are. Also, what the impacts of a failure could be. So the gap is, we're bridging that gap with ServiceWatch. So what that brings to us, as you'll see in this session, is an automated service mapping tool. So really, really, really powerful stuff. I think we'd ask a poll question at this point, if we can, Christina, about any experiences you have as an organisation in doing service mapping. Certainly at Fruition Partners before ServiceWatch came along, we found that's quite a difficult thing to do, and very quickly comes out of date and difficult to keep up to date. Also, real-time business service health. So there's a very clear dashboard showing you how services are performing and what the current status of them are. If you're on the IT operations side of things, if there is an issue, the tool allows you to very quickly to analyse where the root causes are and how that will affect the business service it supports. Also, if you're on the change management side of things, so for assessing the risk of a change, we can see, because we understand the breakdown of a service and its components, any changes that we may make on that service, what effect that could potentially have on a business line of business.
Alan, did you want me to launch the poll?
Yes, please, Christina.
Okay, I'm going to launch it right now. So everyone, you'll see a pop-up on your screen if you could just answer. I will be launching it right now. So has your organization gone through the exercise of service mapping? Please select one of the following. Yes, and you're satisfied with it. Yes, and you're not satisfied with it. No, or I don't know. I'll give you about 10 more seconds to answer, to get your answers in. Okay, and 3, 2, 1, I'm going to close the poll, and I will share the results with all of you. So, Alan, it looks like 48% are yes, but not satisfied.
Yeah, okay, that's not a big surprise. Thank you for that. That's very interesting for us.
Yep.
I think certainly in line with our, our position in with doing this sort of thing in the past before ServiceWatch. These doing business service mapping is very difficult to do. Usually involve workshops using discovery tools, and then really working with people in the business to understand how a service is or how a service is composed. So, the ServiceWatch solution itself, if we can see this okay, there's really a number of use cases for it. Working at the top, it really accelerates and enhances your existing investment in a CMDB. So if you're a ServiceNow CMDB customer at the moment, this is going to accelerate that even more. The service models are fully automated and fully mapped, as you'll see later on with pattern files. There's a lot of these that are out of the box, so you don't have to develop a lot yourself, but it's highly configurable. You don't need to be a scripting expert to do this sort of stuff, so it goes in very quickly. It's not a heavy lift. Down the left here, service health monitoring. There's a very clear dashboard that shows you in real time the health of services, so providing a true business service management dashboard for business type users. Rapid problem isolation. So if you're on a service desk, if you're a part of a resolver group, looking at events that have happened within the infrastructure, root causes can be analysed and detailed very quickly, so we can get to the root cause of a problem, really stopping a lot of time being wasted on the handoff time when something happens. You can go straight to the supporting group that can fix it. Also, change impact analysis. We can look at the effect of a change historically, looking at the baseline of it. Also, as we understand the topology of a service, we can see, for example, if we're upgrading a server, what impact that could potentially have on other services. There's also a key integration with existing event monitoring tools. So that's a really key point. We're not rolling out any agents here. It's an agentless solution, as you see later on. We work very closely with major vendors' tools to listen to those event sources coming in and being able to identify root causes, because we have really key service models. So the top-down discovery, this is the unique part of ServiceWatch and why I'm so excited about it. It's top-down, so it doesn't work in the same way as a traditional, in inverted commas, discovery tool does. It's not a scattergun approach. What we do is we have a defined entry point, so the methodology for getting this in is usually via the way that users access an application or a service, whether that's a URL or a login. From there, the service is unraveled in a fully automated way using pattern files and pattern matching against major application frameworks. We can soon unravel how that service is brought together. It's modeled in real time, so once we've got the service modeled up and running, we can then start monitoring each part of those components and showing you the effect that's having on the overall service. It's cross-technology, so doesn't matter if it's Unix, Linux, Windows, what the application framework is. There's the patterns behind this that will allow you to discover the service point and the service model. So another key point is agentless. We don't need to roll out agents with this technology. It works on a collector service, which is agentless, so it uses things like SNMP, WMI, and other technologies to gather that discovery information, bring it back into ServiceWatch. Because it's collector-based, it's highly scalable. So if you have a large infrastructure, this solution can scale to discover and start managing that very quickly. So just appearing there is a kind of topological view we can see within ServiceWatch. So these very clearly show you the components of a service as it's been discovered, and also in real time any events that have affected any parts of those components. A lot of this is the pattern files behind the scenes, so we don't have to write pattern files every time. So there are a whole library that we can fall back on of things to discover very quickly. So if you have Apache, Tomcat, those sorts of things, we understand that within this technology it can be discovered very quickly. So we like to use the adage, map a service a day. It goes in quickly and it automatically maps services to your IT infrastructure. So just reinforcing some of the use cases, on the right here we can see an example of the real-time service dashboard. So it allows end users and business units to be able to see the status of their current service. Isolating problems very quickly. If there's a very simply, if there's a red over here in the dashboard, we can drill down very, very quickly to the root cause of that problem and look at any affecting events that have affected that. If you're in a change management team, or if you're looking at the impacts of a change, you can very quickly, because we understand the topology of a service, figure out how services are perhaps interrelated and the risk behind rolling out a change, and also compare, go back in time from events that have been discovered in the past, how that's changed, and any unauthorized changes that may have happened. So a take-home point, this goes in quickly, okay? So the way we work with this at Fruition ServiceNow is we identify services. We ask customers which key services they need to manage. We have an entry point for that, so that's the unique point of ServiceWatch. From that point down, it unravels the service from the entry point, and from that point, it creates a topology within the tool and allows us to start monitoring the end user experience and also the effect of any application server outages on that service. This is a real-time customer implementation. We're picking on the big four guys here, I'm not going to mention them, but we do have some experience at Fruition here in the past of putting in some of the big four tools. They take a long time, and usually they take a lot of servers as well to host the software, and it's a heavy lift to roll them out. In comparison, as you can see here, ServiceWatch is a SaaS-based tool, so you don't need to own the software, you don't need to roll anything out apart from an on-site collector. We can start modeling very quickly, so you see results very quickly. Okay, so at that point, I'm going to hand over to James. He's going to give you more of an in-depth view of the tool set. But the take-home points here are very quickly, with ServiceWatch, you can start managing business services quickly. It really enhances your investment in your CMDB, if you have one, or a CMS, to become service aware. So it extends that capability. It goes in fast. That's a really, really key point. It doesn't take ages to do. We can demonstrate value very, very quickly in this tool. As it's SaaS-based, it's affordable. And again, the beauty of that is you don't need to host the management servers that support it. So at this point, I'm going to hand over to James. I think we've got another question, Christina, on the poll.
Yep, we did. So James, you now have presenter, and I will launch the poll before you get started.
Okay, thanks, Christina.
So the next poll is, how easy is it to gain accurate insights into how your services are delivered and how they are performing? Please select one of the following. It's very easy, easy, not easy, or I don't know. I need some Jeopardy music or something here, I think, but I'll give you all about 15 more seconds to get your answers in. Okay. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, I'm going to close it. And I will share the results with all of you. So it looks like 81% are saying it is not easy. And I'll let you take it away with that info, James.
Okay, thanks, Christina. So hopefully you should all be now seeing my screen. So just before I dive in and give you a little bit of a window into some of the technical features of ServiceWatch, I think that poll very clearly illustrates the challenges that a lot of people have. And that's really in terms of mapping out that business service. And Alan's already touched upon a number of those points. Now, business service management is very much a top-down approach. And the problem that organizations struggle with is that current technology discovery methods are very much bottom-up, if you like. So they're focused on asset discovery, so going out into your network and uncovering all of those devices that connect to your network. Then to take that to a business service perspective means looking at all those tens, hundreds, thousands of items and then trying to manually and logically string them together to make a business service. With ServiceWatch, we take a very different approach. We start with the entry point that a user accesses that business service. So it could be a URL or any other number of different entry point types. So the system comes with an awful lot of the standard entry point types that you'd expect, and you've also got the ability to completely create custom entry points as well if you have your own homegrown applications. Now, we'll take that entry point, say in the example of a URL, and use that as the starting point. So, for example, it could be you're accessing the financial portion of a corporate website, and so that can then map out that financial business service. You can then further streamline that and maybe look at just the payroll component of financials. So what happens then is that ServiceWatch will take that particular URL and will start to pull out certain elements of it. So it will resolve the host name, it will take away the specific part of the web page that you're looking to address. It will also look at the port that you're connecting across, and of course the transport. So all of those technical details are held within the entry point configuration. And what happens then is the collectors that are based within your network will then start to look for that specific first entry point type. So it will look at the first tier it connects to.
James, sorry to interrupt you. Some people are saying that they cannot see your screen. Okay. I personally can, but maybe if you just stop presenting and then re-show it, maybe that'll fix the problem for some people. Thanks.
Okay. So can you see my screen now?
I can see it.
Okay, so hopefully everyone else can see that as well now.
Again, and if not, for some reason, if anyone can't see it, we will be sending out a copy of this as well as the recording after. All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
So, no problem. So hopefully you'll be now seeing my screen again. And so within here, we're looking at a service model as built out by ServiceWatch. So it will have taken that first entry point and will have looked at the first tier it hits, and then it will begin to identify and classify that tier. In the example on screen, it's actually a load balancer. And then it works programmatically based on those patterns that Alan mentioned. So we'll look at the load balancer's config and say, okay, well, what do you connect to? And that may be a clustered set of web servers. And then from those web servers, on classification, it will then say, well, what's the next logical layer? And it will work programmatically and targeted way down to that application stack to the very end, whether it's a NetApp filer or a SQL database. Now, the CIs that are uncovered by ServiceWatch are application-centric. So rather than just pulling out a physical host and making that part of the map, we're actually looking at the services and the applications that are hosted upon those servers, because that's what's really important to a business service, and understanding whether or not a change or degradation in service of one of those components ultimately impacts against that business service. So the example on screen here, the highlight elements, we've got a SQL Server analysis service, an integration service, and a database itself. So three separate systems running on one physical box, but each of those elements has a different impact on the overall business service. And so we can qualify and judge that impact on an individual basis. Now, we will capture, of course, the critical attributes of those applications, so understanding the type, and obviously the version numbers, etc. And it comes with a rich set of predefined attributes. They can, of course, be extended on to cover any other additional attributes you may wish. And that's what's displayed by default on the map itself to keep it nice and clean. But we do understand the importance of the supporting infrastructure stack. And so that detail is also captured as well and held off-map, if you like. So by clicking on the CI, we can not only see the application data, but we can then start to drill in and see, okay, what's the server that it's actually hosted on, what's that type of server, what operating system, etc. And if that's a virtualized server, what are the details of the virtual machine itself in terms of what image files it's using, what memory does it have allocated. And then ultimately, what does that virtual machine reside on? So what's the hypervisor detail as well? So all that great knowledge and information can be stored, but we're not going to clutter our business service map by bubbling it up onto the top level. Now, between those applications, there's obviously connections, and we don't want to have to manually create those either. So ServiceWatch will build those out for us. So rather than just a runs on or used by type of relationship, we can start to understand what was the origin host, what's the destination, what port are we communicating on, what transport language are we using, along with a number of other attributes. So we're starting to really understand the dependencies between these applications. And actually we can start to uncover configured connections that aren't actually used. But again, really relate back to the overall business service as to how this application or this service translates across your network and what technologies are being put into place. Now, on the overall business service map, again, this is a simple line, but in reality, it's not as simple as that. And so we will uncover as well all the network connections that make up those application connections. So much like a visual trace route, we'll uncover all the network devices, interfaces, and ports. So looking at the switches and routers that make up the communication between those 2 points. And so within that, we can actually drill down and look at a physical port on a switch of which the connection is on. So if we see an alert from any of the network monitoring devices, we can directly relate that up to a connection between a set of applications and ultimately understand the impact on the overall business service to really help speed up some of the troubleshooting from those infrastructure components. And when it comes to the business service map as well, we understand and we appreciate networks aren't a static environment, and neither is environments, especially looking at a lot of today's agile and elastic operating environments. So depending on the priority of the business service, we can ensure that the regularity of the discovery process is kept in a reasonable manner. So for a high priority one in a flexible environment, we may wish to rerun discovery on a much more regular basis. For a static or a lower priority business service, we can keep that to a much more separated and less frequent basis. And with those iterative discovery runs, we can then start to understand what components are being added to the underlying business service, what's being removed, and what's changing. So if we take an application from one host to another, we can understand the move, and we can relate that back to obviously to actual changes, to unapproved changes, and really help the communication between operations teams and change advisory boards. Coupled with that, we can start to understand the codependencies from other services and applications. So from that business map, we can drill down on a specific CI and look at its dependencies. So in this case, we have a SQL server, and that's serving multiple other different applications and different business services. So should we make a change, or should we have an event occur against that SQL server, then we can really start to understand what's the wider ranging impact and who do we need to be keeping involved in any of these change processes. That's a really brief insight into some of the ServiceWatch features. And again, just to echo the start of the presentation, obviously we'd love you to come along to the event on the 23rd of October and be able to see a real live, obviously demonstration of ServiceWatch, and also have a chance to get your hands on the technology. And with that, I'm going to hand back to Christina and Alan.
Thanks, James. Again, I apologize for those that were unable to see James's screen, but we will be sending out a slide deck so you'll be able to see all the slides as well as a full recording of the webinar. So if a question comes to mind as well after today, or if you'd like a private demo of ServiceWatch, feel free to reach out to Alan or James directly. Their email addresses and phone numbers are displayed on the screen. Or you can reach out to info@FruitionPartners. And then again, as James mentioned, don't forget about our special 3-hour ServiceWatch live event on October 23rd in London. And not only is it a great chance, to learn more about ServiceNow, but it's an easy way to connect with your fellow ServiceNow colleagues and partners. So be sure to visit the URL on that screen for more information. If you cannot see the screen right now, it is fruitionpartners.com/events, and you'll see it on the Fruition Partners website. So thank you again, and we hope to see you at our next webinar, everyone.